Hi,
Hello.
can you hear me?
I can. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing all right.
I respect you for actually willing to talk to me.
Why would I not be willing to talk to you? Hello? Hello?
On Twitch specifically.
Oh, you cut out for like a long chunk of time.
Okay. Yeah, my Wi-Fi's a little bit iffy, but we'll see.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Dr. Heamed out in chat. Hello, Dr. Heamed. Hello?
Hi.
Are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So yeah, why wouldn't I want to talk to you?
Just like so last night
Mm-hmm.
I you know, I found a stream, Democrat guy, he was watching the interview that Trump did on Fox News. And I sent two messages and I don't know, I didn't think they were like very radical or anything like that or offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I was banned from the chat.
Oh, what did the messages say?
So he was kind of arguing how there was no fraud going on in the election,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that there was no. In my first message, I said, "Have you even watched the Pennsylvania hearing?"
Mm-hmm.
And then in my second message, because he was saying how there was no there was no Democrats at the hearing, and I said that's incorrect. There was one Democratic witness, and the reason why there was mainly Republicans was because that's the people who weren't allowed to look at the mail-in ballots.
I mean, this is. I guess this is kind of off topic, but like you know that Trump put together like an elite crack team to like find voter fraud and couldn't find any in 2018.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but this is 2020.
Right, but so just so we're clear, are you like team there's like a widespread conspiracy going on, or are you team like yeah, there might have been some voter fraud?
I'm team. There might have been some voter fraud, and I think there was. I wouldn't say conspiracy, but I think there was people who were working together. I don't think there was like hundreds of people working together, but I think in the major cities there was some corp- cooperation going on.
Okay. So why have they had like 30 of their cases thrown out due to lack of evidence?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, why has like the Trump administration had like 30 of their cases thrown out of court for lack of evidence?
In specifically in Pennsylvania or in
Well,
general?
just in general, like all of their like lawsuits have basically either been thrown out or been shown to be like hilariously insubstantive, like over like 9 votes that someone found, 5 of which were for Trump and 4 of which were for Biden. Like a lot of these haven't amounted to much of anything. And so like I'm willing to say, yeah, maybe there was some voter fraud going on in Philadelphia, but like how much? It seems like if there was this overwhelming amount of proof that they had, they would have been getting more time in court to like prove that. But um I don't know, maybe the judges are in on the conspiracy too.
I'm gonna probably butcher the numbers, but my question then would be, how do you explain the what I guess it was the number they sent out like 1 million mail-in ballots and then got back 1.7 million. Like, how do you explain that one?
Well, there are
Because that was
probably
on.
other ways of getting mail-in ballots. Like you could probably go to like the city center and pick one up physically.
But do you think 700,000 people did that
I mean, how many people voted in the election? There's
in
hundred over a hundred
Pennsylvania?
over 100 million people voted in this election. Like what, like 100? No, 160 million people. So I mean, it's very possible. Yeah. Like why? Like for example, why would you not get it in person if you live close to the city center, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I agree with that. But there was also what, like 7 million votes in Pennsylvania, so that would mean that 1 in every 10 people did that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it. Look, I'm just saying that there are probably other ways that you can get mail-in ballots other than like it being specifically mailed to you.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I agree with that, and I think there is a chance that there was fraud like there is with every election. I think there's also a chance that this was more of a bigger thing, and that's kind of my problem. Is that what I'm seeing is a lot of people are refusing to recognize the chance that there could have been larger fraud going on.
right, but like extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, right? So, like, if this is actually like hundreds of thousands of illegal ballots, possibly millions, wouldn't that be relatively easy to prove in court? So like that's
Yeah,
that's like my thing. Like if it was relatively easy to prove, like if you had like this huge mountain of evidence that was actually compelling over hundreds of thousands or millions of cases, I feel like they would have gotten their court case heard in more than one state. And like as far as I know, the reason they keep talking about Philadelphia, Philadelphia, Philadelphia is because it's the only place so far that has been like, okay, maybe something happened. Here you can have a hearing. Which, by the way, does not mean they won. It just means, yeah, we'll hear your arguments. So that like that to me that just seems to imply that there isn't actually as much evidence as they keep claiming they have.
okay, so I don't know much, right? Like I only know a lot about the Pennsylvania hearing. I don't know what he's done like prior to that in courts and stuff. I don't know much about that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think I'm curious because there was an Arizona hearing today, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a chance to see that, and I'm wondering if you have.
I read something about it, but like as far as I know, the main news coming out of Arizona today was that the election results were certified in favor of Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not like a big Trump guy
Mm-hmm.
either. I just I hope that he just gets a fair shot. That's all.
Yeah,
Just like we hope Joe Biden and everyone else gets a fair shot.
yeah. I think the issue is, and probably this is why you got banned from that other channel, is that there are a lot of people who claim like there's this massive conspiracy. It's the deep state, and like streamers can't argue with those people all the time because they become completely unhinged from like reality. Like in their reality, there's like some deep conspiracy, like on a scale the United States has never seen before, or like ever in the history of our country. And like I I don't think there's any way to prove to them that there isn't something like that going on. So I think you might have gotten lumped in with those people from your messages, and that's unfortunate. But that's also not entirely your fault. So sorry you got banned from that channel.
Okay, so do you want to talk about capitalism now?
Sure.
So I think that I hear like argument that a lot of the times like there hasn't been a true communist society and things like that, but
Mm-hmm.
I would argue like right now in America there isn't a true capitalist society
Sorry you broke up there at the end.
because the money is government and all this stuff.
You're breaking up a little bit. You said you would argue that.
I think that and I think yeah, I would argue that there isn't a true capitalist society in America because the central banking system, the American government controls all the money that's coming in and out.
Mm-hmm. So you're right in one way and you're wrong in another, right? So on the one
Okay.
hand, you're correct that like the United States isn't a laissez-faire capitalist society. Like a lot of people like to pretend that we are, and that's just not the case. Like there are lots of regulations. There's lots of somewhat socialist institutions, like, for example, firefighters. Um, the original construction of like the highway system. That's another example of like a socialist policy. Um, so yeah, you're right that we don't live in a pure capitalist society. It's really hard to live in a pure society of anything. Um, but when it comes to like, there's never been a communist society. Um, this is true. We've also never really seen a socialist society, and that's for primarily two different reasons. And like, just real quick, I'm going to go over like the main pillars of what makes something socialist and what makes something communist. So you're socialist if you have workers controlling the means of production, and if you have decommodified a significant portion of your economy.
What do
And
you mean by decommodified?
like basically taken the aspect of like buying it out of the equation.
Okay.
So like you can just go get it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and furthermore, with communism, you have those first two things, but then you have a third aspect, which is the dissolution of the state. So when a lot of people talk about like the USSR or China, I think it would be a really hard argument to say that they don't have a state. Um,
Sure. Yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's ever really been communism.
yeah, exactly, because there hasn't. Like, I can go into more detail about this if you'd like, but basically, the main issue is that Stalin came into power in Russia after, like, during World War II or right before World War II, and essentially said, I control the state, and we came into power saying that we were socialists, so this is what socialism is now. And Stalin was
Yeah.
an authoritarian dictator who centralized their economy and engaged in state capitalism. Um, like he's not a socialist. Um, so yeah, I agree with you. If we agree on those points, I agree with you so far.
Yeah, and I think that I guess like I know a lot more about capitalism than I do about socialism and communism. So
Mhm.
I guess my question would be then like if you could, I don't know, if you controlled all three branches of government in the U.S., like what would you do to make America like the best socialism that it could be? Like
Yeah.
what would that look like?
So I basically I'm a market socialist. So basically, what I advocate for is one, transitioning us over a period of time to worker co-ops. And I advocate for this largely because worker co-ops are a thing we already have under capitalism. We know how they work. We know, basically that we can implement them on a wide scale. We can basically implement these worker co-ops, and they can do all of the things a private company does, except that the workers are happier. There's less of a risk that a worker co-op is just going to like collectively vote to move the company overseas. There's they also tend to be more efficient. Studies have shown that they're about 9 to 14% more efficient than private companies. Um, and they distribute their wealth a bit more equitably, so you don't have like a Jeff Bezos like figure at the top who's making like, you know, $400 billion or however much money Jeff Bezos has. Instead, the profits of the company get more equitably distributed to everyone involved, which is also like good because then you don't have to fear automation because everyone benefits from the automation in the company. So I would have basically these small loan programs to help us invest in small service-oriented worker co-ops, because right now most of the worker co-ops we have in society are agricultural, um, and that's largely because people in agriculture own their own capital, and that means it's more easy for them to band together as opposed to like someone who works at Walmart, right? Um, so we have a program to slowly transition that way by helping more worker co-ops start up, and by having a stipulation that anytime we have to step in to bail out a private company, that company has to become a worker co-op. Because also worker co-ops tend to be better for the state. Worker co-ops tend to, again, be more efficient. They create more stuff. They have better quality of living for the employees. They keep their money local, right? Um, so by making these companies worker co-ops, we effectively can make sure that their wealth stays local to them. Um,
I
on
I
t-
worker
oh yeah,
I worker co-ops. You mean like basically if there's 100 employees, they basically have like 1% of the say in the company? Like, what do you mean by that?
yeah, essentially like a democratic structure for running the worker
Okay.
co-op. I can bring up, and it might help if it's like a little bit more visual. I can bring up like just like a little thing of like how this would work. Um, worker co-ops, and then on top of that, I would decommodify the basic things people need to live a life in a modern society.
So like they're free or
Yeah. So, like, basically, if you're homeless, you have a place to live. If you're starving, you have access to basic food stuff. If you are, you have access to clean water, to electricity,
right?
to internet, education, healthcare, all that stuff. But under this market socialist society, you're not given anything more than that. So if you want to better your quality of living, if you want to help your community, if you just want to satisfy your curiosity, well, then you have to go out and work at a worker co-op. You have to contribute to your society, and that way you can buy your PS10 or whatever it is. Is it worker? That's just a giant picture. Why is that? Okay, never mind. I just found a giant picture of Dr. Heemdout on my computer for some reason. He sent it to me a while back. All right, I'm gonna find it now.
Are you,
Here we go. Found it.
is it on the stream?
Yeah, I'm about to put it on the stream.
Okay.
There you go. So essentially,
Twitch stream, I lost
hmm?
What do we got?
What now?
Got any tree trouble here? Or we...
What's your Twitch name again? I forgot what it is.
Oh, Riverboat Jack.
Okay.
But essentially, everyone who works at the company makes up the membership of the company, and periodically the membership of the company will meet up to dictate the broad decisions of like how the company should operate. Like, how should we use the profits for this upcoming quarter? How should we, distribute our labor time? Maybe if the company's doing well, you cut down to like 20 hours a week, but you keep the same amount of pay. But everyone from the leadership board down to the editors, they're all part of the worker co-op. They all benefit from how well the worker co-op is doing, and they collectively own it together. Now, how those profits might be distributed might depend. For example, someone might argue that like the leadership board should make a little bit more money than like a baseline editor or something like that. And like that, I feel like that might be reasonable. But like the main idea of the worker co-op is that all of these decisions are agreed upon via democracy.
Okay. I think that's a pretty reasonable
Yeah.
thing, and I think like a big issue that I see is a lot of the times people are really just kind of radical, like out there, not with just socialism, just with like everything. I feel, and I think that's pretty reasonable. I guess I would just have two questions, and one is like, who's paying? Is it just like for the worker co-ops? Is it the money they're making is distributed, or is someone else paying them, or what?
Yeah, I mean it's like a normal business. They're getting their money from commerce. So
Okay.
that's the market part
And
of market socialism. Like markets aren't just unique to capitalism. Markets have existed all throughout human history under various economic systems. So it's just embracing that there are certain things that the market does well. And I think, for example, distributing luxury goods is one of those things. And then there are things that the market doesn't do well, like how much is fair to charge you when you're willing to pay any price for insulin, right? So
Right.
taking a profit motive out of those things, I think, is good.
Yeah, and then who would pay for like the free toilet paper and houses and stuff?
It would probably be the out of taxes. Yeah,
Taxes. Okay, so taxes would still be a thing.
yeah. I mean, until we got
Okay.
to a place where like we eliminated the state and like could live in like some sort of Star Trek like utopia kind of thing. Like I think taxes are
Yeah.
gonna have to be a thing. Um, but I mean, I ideally the idea of market socialism would be that everyone would be able to, if they wanted to, live a life of like pretty good life. Like there's no real reason that we
Yeah.
should have like homeless people shitting on the street in the wealthiest country on earth, right? So yeah, these are the things that I would advocate for.
Is not with yours. I think that that's like totally reasonable, and I think that I wish like we could try that out in America.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that just the chances of that happening are just so low because I just think the two-party system is horrible, and I think we need another party for sure. And I just think that like if we'd just be able to get so much more done, and there'd be so much more innovation and variation if there was like a third party.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like the entire reason why I founded my channel was so I could talk about socialism and how I would ideally like to pursue it. And I on my channel I don't pretend like I have all the answers to any of this. There are certainly things that I don't know about that other people know more about. But I'm here to be essentially an advocate for this position because our two-party system is very broken, and the only way
Yep,
we're really going to be able to fix it is by passing ranked choice voting, which is what allows third parties to rise. But
I
until
agree.
but
I
until
agree.
but until we get that, like a third party is kind of a pipe dream. So I advocate for people working within the existing power structures to like push forward these ideas. You know. Um,
So would you say like entirely abolish the electoral college and make like a ranked voting system, or how would you like reform that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think those are two different questions because
Okay.
the states are largely the things that decide how their elections go. So states, you couldn't really have like a federal mandate for the states to pick up ranked choice voting. That's one of the problems, right? So you'd have to go state by state to get ranked choice voting in all states. Um, but then I would also abolish the electoral college. Like I think that we live in a democracy and one person should get one vote and that vote should matter regardless of where
I
they
agree.
live.
Yeah, and I hate it because I've lived in like a very liberal part of California,
Hmm.
and it's just like very difficult to have a conversation about anything political or religious. Like people just get very offended. Like pretty much there's either two things that happen or three things that happen. One, people get offended. Two, they start yelling at you. Or three, they're just really sensitive and kind of shut down. And I've also lived in very rural, um, conservative part of Utah,
Hmm.
and I've kind of seen that same thing. And I just think it's kind of unfortunate that we can't really have these conversations, and it's just because I've learned already so much from you, and it's just kind of unfortunate that we can't have these talks.
Yeah, and like, but again, like that's why I made this entire Twitch channel so that I can have these talks. Because you're right, a lot of people in current politics treat it more like a football game than they do like actual policy that matters.
Yeah,
And like it does matter. It matters a whole lot. For some people, these policies are life and death, and so yeah, I just I want to be able to push for a world where we can make it better.
yeah. Hey, well, listen, it was awesome talking to you, and I dropped the follow, and maybe one day I'll drop a subscription, and yeah,
Heck yeah.
just good luck with everything.
You have a good evening. Okay.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, that was nice. How's it going, everybody? How's it going? It was nice. It was very nice. I appreciated that conversation. Hello, disco cool hot. Wait, disco cool hot thought. Hot. I don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry. I think that went really well. I agree. It did go very well. It went way better than with the anarcho-capitalist caller who called in the other day and argued that he should be able to make concentration camps if he owned water. That was definitely a call. But yeah, this call went way